Shalom, shalom. Yisra Ya'el, Yehonathan Da. We with you here, humbly so, to talk to you again another week on Yahweh for Christians about the beautiful word of Yahweh. And I'm hoping that the information I'm sharing with you transfers to you in a way that I'm receiving it, which is that in every detail, Yahweh has us in mind. It's us, a bride, who have pulled ourselves away from him, and him trying to bring us back into the Garden of Eden, and how it will be done. Yahweh keeps covenant, and his will be done on earth as it is in Hashemayim. His will be done in you, in me, who receive him. Today's topic is Noakh Grace. Noakh Chaim. Noakh and Chaim are the same word spelled the opposite way. Noakh is Nun, Chet. Chaim is Chet Nun. Noakh and Grace. Last week I talked about Bereshit. We started with Bereshit. Bereshit has a whole lot in that one word. In English is in the beginning. But a lot is missed in English. In English, you have the food without the flavor, without the smell, without the taste. In Bereshit, we see that Yahweh is saying that he is building a home. He is starting his creation, and he's starting with a house. And the house is founded on his son. And this is no different than what any man would do. He has a pregnant wife. He's beginning his life, starting a family. He has to build a house. And the house is where his family will reside. His name continues in his son. If he only has daughters, they would take on another man's name. So he has a son, and he has a house, and his name is carried on even after he is gone. This is what Yahweh is doing, although he will not leave. He will always be with us, as he is letting us know, his creation know that he is building a house. Now, this house that he's building is not a creation, it is a recreation. And this time he's recreating it with his son. Apparently the first creation was not founded on his son, but this one will be. You missed that when you read in English from your King James Bible. Now, we start off realizing that the first beginning of the Torah is 7 words. Bereshit bara Elohim at Hashmayim wa'at haaretz. 7 words, each word representing one day. Each day representing 1,000 years of mankind. Isaiah 46:10, he says, Yahweh declares the end from the beginning. So what Yahweh is doing is he's letting us know right now in the beginning of his revelation what's going to happen at the end. That's on day 1 when he says, let there be or. Or is mistranslated in our Bibles as light, but it's not light as we know it. When Yahweh says, let there be or, he's saying, let the creation be full of the knowledge of Yahweh. And this makes sense. Why would any artist create something and have that creation be attributed to someone else? Yahweh created all things, and he wanted all things to have a knowledge of himself, not of something else that he created. So this makes perfect sense. Or, let there be or means, let there be the creation be full of the knowledge of Yahweh. On day 2, Yahweh divided the waters, and then day 2 of mankind, that's when the flood happened. Those two correlate. We know that in day 2, Yahweh did not say that it was good. Why? Because he knew that day 2 would be the day that he would have to destroy the creation, saving a remnant. On day 3, we have land. That correlates to us leaving the land of Mizraim. We go through the Reed Sea, dry shod, and we enter into the Kodesh land 40 years later. So day 3 corresponds to us entering to the land. Day 4, we have light as we do know it. the sun, the moon, and the stars. This correlates to the fourth day of man, the 4,000th year of man, the birth of Dawid, the moon, the birth of Yahshua at the end of the day. Remember, when Yahweh creates a day, it's from dusk to dawn, evening to evening is his day. So Dawid in the beginning of the day, Yahshua at the end of the fourth day, and we are the stars. Day 5, we get the beast. Yahweh says that he's going to make us fishers of men. So the earth is populated and teeming with life on the 5th day. And this is us. We retain. This is the earth is populated, and we know that after the resurrection of Yahweh, we had the Besorah message. The Ruach HaKodesh was given to the 120 souls who waited in the upper room. They taught the Besorah message, and the first 100 years after the resurrection changed the whole world from a polytheistic world to a monotheistic world. Now we do know that all mankind is not worshiping Yahweh, but they all believe in a different way of thinking, of approaching whoever they believe. They believe their way is the right way. It's not a polytheistic belief. They used to interchange gods before. We do also know that in the 5th day is when Ruach went out and when everything spread out. That's when we went out and spread out through all the world. Day 6 is what we're in today. Day 6 is the age of man. We know 6 represents the number of man. And Yahweh made man after his image. Today we are called to accept the image of Yahweh. We're being challenged to accept the mark of the beast. Day 6, you either accept Yahweh's image or 666, the mark of the beast. This is important. You just had a debate a few days ago. I did not watch 1 second of it, and you'll find that it cements my position, and it's a waste of time to go out and vote for man. Do not put your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. How can any sane, rational thinking person cast their vote for any of those two men? Based on what I hear that you saw in those debates, based on what I hear, it was a mockery and a joke and clownish. And you will put your trust in any of those men to lead the free world? No way. So day 6, are we going to accept Yahweh or the image of the beast? Also in day 6, we know that in the desert, we had a double portion of manna. Day 6 is the preparation day for Shabbat. We get a double portion of manna, which represents Yahweh Shua. So today we have more knowledge than we've ever had before. The knowledge I had today is much more than I had 40 years ago when I first learned this. So we increase the knowledge, but we also supposed to be preparing for the Shabbat and the meeting of the groom and reuniting with the groom. It's a beautiful time. I shared with you last week how I got married on Shabbat. It's the best time to get married on if you get married with your soulmate in Yahweh Shua. The 7th day is going to be the millennial kingdom. That's the day of rest. 1,000 years the land will have shalom and rest and growth and regrowth. We know the 8th day is eternal, a day without time, that is eternity. Now, how is it that Yahweh can judge those not under the covenant? Well, they are judged by the Noahide laws. The watchers knew they were sinning when they had sex with women. They knew they were sinning, eating blood and eating each other and killing everyone. That was known before there was such thing as a 10 Commandments. Romans 1:20 says that, so the ancient world was judged by the Noahide laws. This world will be judged by the Noahide laws also for those who are not under the covenant. The covenant is for Yahweh's people, but those not under the covenant also will be judged, and Yahweh is justified because we read in Romans 1:20 where Shaul says that all things seen and unseen testifies of Yahweh. With our own knowledge and common sense, we can look out our windows and see that something greater than us more intelligent than us, more ancient than us, created all things. Man cannot create air. Man cannot create water. Man cannot do these things, and we know all men have a birth date and a death date. So obviously something greater than him, more ancient than him, that always existed and created all things. So if we don't accept that, we don't have to know the name of Yahweh, but we do know, for those who are not exposed to it, but we do know that Yahweh created us knowing that he created all things. In the beginning, that there be or. Everything has the knowledge of Yahweh, even if they don't have the knowledge of his name. His word is above his name. Anything that does not acknowledge Yahweh will be destroyed by fire this time, not by water. Enoch 7. Enoch 7 goes into detail talking about the watchers. And I have some books here that I'm going to be referencing that I've been using. Here's a complete book of Enoch. And I have others like this. I'm going to also be referencing Jasher. I have the Dead Sea Scrolls, a copy. And I showed last week, this is very helpful to me. It's has Hebrew and English in its interlinear Bible. And also we'll be referencing my book, one of my books here. So, but in Enoch 7, talks about the watchers, and it says, and the rest took consorts. So the watchers took consorts. What are consorts? The Hebrew word is shigal, and shigal is a queen. So that means she was married. So these watchers, these fallen spirits, took married women, and they had sex with them and impregnated them, and they created Nephilim. Nephilim were over 350 feet tall, 400 feet tall. And they consumed everything. And Yahweh's creatures, us men, served them and fed them constantly. Then other creatures then Yahweh had, they continued and impregnating women, and then other giants, the giants were eating each other and fighting each other. Bigger giants ate smaller giants, and smaller giants ate even still smaller giants. So, and we go from now the book of Enoch should have been in the so-called Bible, but this narrative can be found in your Bible: Genesis 6, 1 through 4, Numbers 13, 33, Deuteronomy 2, 11 and 20, Deuteronomy 3 and 11 and 13, 1 Samuel 17, 4, and 2 Samuel 21, 20. All talks about the ancient world and its giants. Daniel 2 and 43. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. Shaitan and his seed has always sought to mingle with Yahweh's creation so as to supplant Yahweh and to try to enter into the Garden of Eden again and to rule. Shaitan's goal has always been to mix with Yahweh's people and to supplant Yahweh. July 5th, 1996. July 5th, 1996. That's when Dolly was cloned. There was a sheep named Dolly was cloned in 1996. So advanced is the mind of man that even then it took the next year, 1997, for them to create a computer that could defeat man. In 1997, the year after the Dolly was recreated, remember they used Dolly as a clone. That was 1996. But 1997, Deep Blue, a supercomputer, defeated Kasparov, who was the world's chess champion, 3.5 games to 2.5 games. And even then, the mind of man was so advanced, Kasparov said that IBM cheated. He did not believe that he could be defeated by a computer, but he was. And that shows you how advanced computers were becoming. In 2003, the mapping of your DNA was completed. 2003. And this was done with fast supercomputers. And even then, man could not really clone or make man because the protein chain is so complex. It took until 2014, just 6 years ago, that man was able to recreate the human protein. And he did so with supercomputers that made other supercomputers. These computers are so advanced that man cannot make them. Man cannot control them. Man cannot even control his own creation. He is making computers that he cannot control because he has the computers making themselves now. So that means it's out of his authority. That means it's something alien of him and alien of the computers working within the computers. The computers have their own life. And these computers are what mapped our protein. So now man is able to make man, and you have them walking amongst us today. You interact with them every day, and you do not know who they are. But Daniel says they're not going to be able to sustain themselves. Why did they name that sheep Dolly? It was not by coincidence. See, Dolly means gift of God. And it's an English word, gift of God, but it comes from the Greek word Dorothy, which means God's gift. And this is man again, trying to replace, he's always tried to make man. Remember Shelley, who made the story of Frankenstein? You made this man and you bolted him with light and brought life to him. So Frankenstein was this. But now man can actually make real Frankensteins, but Frankensteins that look like real people. And sheep is a natural place to start because sheep, the sheep really came from goats. The sheep that Abel had tended to did not look like the sheep we have today. The sheep that Abel tended to did not look like Dolly. They were not fluffy white sheep. Yahweh covered Adam and Mother Hawa with sheepskin, it says, but it's really goat skin, goat hair. And the sheep came from goats. The goat hair, the black goat hair is what Adam and Mother Hawa were covered with. And this is why Shaitan started there. They have records from, they say, over 10,000 years ago of introgression of goat genes. Introgression is the transfer of genetic information from one species to another as a result of hybridization, okay, between them, and repeated back crossing. So they started with the goat. And why would they do that? Because that's what Yahweh used to cover Adam and Hawa with, is with the goat. You get from there, you get the sheep, and the sheep is a good place for man to start his demonic works. The sheep they're very docile, they lack aggression, they have a manageable size, they have early sexual reproduction, early sexual maturity, they're very social in nature, and they have high reproductive rates. And they need man. There's no such thing as a wild sheep, a sheep just out there. A sheep out there in the wild on his own is a dead sheep. He's a tasty morsel for anything hungry. So sheep stay with man. They need man to sustain their own lives. Let's go to Jubilees. I have the book of Jubilees over here too. I have a small library, but every book over there is important. I don't have a great big library, but every book is important. You don't need a whole lot of books. If you have the Torah, you have this book, you have everything you need. Look at that. A well-used book. Well-used book. the Bible. That's the only book you need. But as researchers, to validate a lot of teachers need other books to validate to use, because when a researcher tells you something that's particularly if they black, people don't want to listen. So you get other books to show and back it up and support it, written by people who are not Hebrew or are not black. But we go to Jubilees 3, and we find that we get Adam. Talks about Adam, how he names the beast. The beasts come to him humbly, and he talks to them. They understand him. All the creatures speak the language Lashon HaKodesh. They all speak the language of creation. They didn't lose that until after the fall. We see that Mother Hawa is deceived by Shaitan. We see that Cain kills Abel, and it goes on from there. Now, when Enoch is born, he is the first one to learn about writing. He had the wisdom of writing. Methuselah and Enoch testified against the Watchers for what they were doing, mixing and teaching mankind how to splice animals and insects and plants, teaching them how to seduce with their eyes. So Yahweh talks about the 4 places that he wants to keep Kodesh, the 4 places where he is going to give information to man about how he's going to rectify all this. The first place is the Garden of Eden. Man was put out of the Garden of Eden, but Yahweh has had a covenant with Adam that he will always he's planning to bring man back into the Garden of Eden. This is what Shaitan is also trying to do. He's trying to come back as Adam, supplanting Adam with his genes. So you have the Garden of Eden. You also have the mountain of the east. The mountain of the east is the Mount of Olives. That is where the covenant was ratified as the redeemed bride. Yahweh Shua died on the Mount of Olives and resurrected from there. And then you also have Sinai. That is where the written covenant was made and ratified. That's where we married Yahweh. We accepted the covenant, but we did not consummate it because we broke it before the commandments came back down. Then we have Mount Zion. Zion is where, in the form of Dawid, Yahweh will reign for 1,000 years to show the world how to keep the covenant made at Sinai. So those are the 4 places of note, that everything that we need to know comes from those 4 places. And it comes from Yahweh at his appointed time. And his appointed times are called the Moedim. In Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32, he says, they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feast. For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor diminish any feast. This is important because today we have preachers telling us that the feast days are the old covenant. They are missing out. You're not going to understand what Yahweh has to say. You're not going to know when he's saying it if you're not keeping his feast days. Yahweh is saying this in the book of Jubilees. This is long before Moses. Long before Moshe came down from the mountain with the 10 Commandments, that he said, do not diminish these days. They have to be kept. All the ancient world knew about the Kodesh Moedim. They knew about the 7 feast days. And it goes on to talk about Ham and how Ham took the cloak of his father, who was partially uncovered. He took them. This, in my research, shows to be the cloak of Adam. So Ham was the first one to take it, and he ended up giving it to Nimrod, or to Canaan, and Canaan gave it to Nimrod. And we see that Shem, Ham, and Yafet, they made a covenant to go to their allotted lands, which they did not do. Everyone stayed in Shem's land. So Yahweh is justified when he brought us out of Mizraim to taking back his land. All right, because the Canaanites was not supposed to be there. They were supposed to be further out north. Yafet was supposed to be even further out. So the covenant was violated from the very beginning in coming out of the ark. Matthew 24, 37 through 39. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Because in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Right now, the days are just like this. People are trying their best to get back into their life of buying and selling. They want to get back to their lives pre-COVID, and they're ignoring Yahweh in his Kodesh days. How many people are keeping tabernacle? How many people are acknowledging, recognizing the feast days? The days are going by so fast. I find myself quite often on Sunday morning still preparing for this broadcast, still preparing for this taping, because the days are going by so fast. It's coming before I'm even finished getting all the material ready. And I still have more material to share for this broadcast and this show that I'm not going to have to get to you because I didn't finish researching it. But that shows you that we are so caught up and busy and in our work. It is designed that way. The days seem to be getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The time is coming fast, and we need to be ready. Yahweh sure says that we are going to be living our lives, living our best lives, and not paying attention to the signs of the times. The first time he came, we did not pay attention. It took Ishmaelites, our half-brothers, to let us know that the Messiah had come. They were watching. They saw his star. And this time, it will be his cloud. Will you be watching? 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. But know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come, because men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Yahweh, having a form of righteousness, but denying the power, and from such turn away. Shaul was telling Ud, who we call Timothy, that in these days that we're going to be lovers of ourselves, that there's going to be people who are teaching the word with the form of being Sadiq. They're going to look like they're saying the right thing, look like they're doing the right thing. They're going to have great ministries, successfully ministries, growing and strong, but it's just a form of righteousness. How is it a form? Because they're denying the power thereof. What is the power? The power is the mighty right arm of Yahweh. Yahweh sure is his right arm that comes from his side. Just like Hawa came from Adam's side, Yahweh sure comes from Yahweh's side. If you're not teaching or preaching in the name of Yahweh sure, they have a form of righteousness, a form of being Sadiq. They're denying the power, which is Yahweh sure. Do not follow them. This ministry testifies only of Yahweh sure. Genesis 6:9. This is the genealogy of Noakh. Noakh was a just man, perfect in all his generations. Noakh walked with Yahweh. And Noakh, Yahweh found grace. The gematria for Noakh is 58. The gematria for Noakh, grace, is 58. It's the same thing. And that's what we're going to need today if we walk with Yahweh like Noakh did. Hebrews 11. Now, this thing also, going back to this perfect in his generations, this is a genetic word. The genetics of this word is that Noakh was perfect. Now, we know that the woman's seed is XX and a man's seed is XY. Yahweh said to Shaitan that the woman's seed is going to crush his head, not the man's seed. The woman's seed is XX. When a baby girl is born, she is born with all the eggs she will ever have. They're already perfect. They do not mature. They're already matured and ready for use until she matures, until her body matures. And if the egg is not used, she loses one per month. So the eggs are perfect already in their generations. The man seed is not. It matures as he matures, and he loses it. He can lose it at times that he's not planning to lose it. He's not supposed to spill his seed at any time other than for procreation. And we do know that man continues to make seed even until he dies if he's healthy. So it's a two difference between the XX chromosome and the XY chromosomes. There's a big difference. Noah was perfect in his genes. He was perfect in genes. And we know that Noah, if we look at the Genesis Apocryphon 106, and you can find it also in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that he was born, he was pure white. And he was speaking clearly and maturely. And when he opened his mouth, he lightened up the entire house. His father, Lamech, was frightened. He thought that his wife was raped by one of the watchers and that he was a fallen angel. His wife died when she birthed Noakh. So Lamech went to his father Methuselah and told him what his son looked like. Methuselah didn't understand this, so he went to his father Enoch. And Enoch said that the man was Sadiq, he was righteous, that he was going to be the remnant that saves mankind from all the mixing of man. Now, why do I bring that up about Noah being white, and why does this bring up Noah being white? It's because it's an anomaly. But he had a dimdima, it says. A dimdima means he had bushy hair and he had locks, which means he had melanin. It's just that the melanin was pure and perfect. It did not show in color form. There's only 2 instances in the Torah where it is mentioned what the child looked like skin-wise when he was born. That's Noakh, who was pure white, and Esau, who was pure red. I go into detail on that in my book because that is important about Esau being red. Noakh being white, we know that he had melanin because he produced 3 sons, Shem, who was brown, Ham, who was black, and Yafet, who was albino. And all the world was recreated with these 3 men. That means all the world, once again, was melatonic as it was in the ancient world. Nothing changed because Noakh was pure white. He still had the genes of melanin. Now, so we see that Noakh and his sons, they got their wives 1 week before the flood. The wives were not perfect. They were tainted, but it wouldn't have mattered. Their tainted genes would not have come out if they and their husbands kept the Torah, all 613 laws, perfectly. Well, of course, we know they didn't. And once again, our gene pool was infiltrated with sin of Shaitan and his mixing. So once again, man falls. Man continuously gets mixing and falls. But 7 days, Noakh and his wife, his 3 sons and his 3 daughter-in-laws, 8 souls were in the ark for 7 days, tabernacling in the ark before the rain came. This is the same thing that's going to happen in the last great day. The rain came on the 8th day, the last great day. When before the Messiah returns, he's going to, when the 2 sticks unite, we should be tabernacling. 7 days tabernacling, waiting for the judgment day to come. On the 8th day, Yahushua reveals himself with Yehuda in tow. Yisrael and Yehuda unites on the last great day, and that's when the judgment happens. Instead of water coming down, it'll be fire. And those who are not in the who are not tabernacling will be lost. But we have our Christian preachers telling us not to keep the feast days. Yet they're keeping Christmas and Easter, New Year's, and Thanksgiving. But they're not keeping the feast days. But Yahweh told us in the beginning that all these days will be kept. Do not diminish them. They are important. that's the time for him to come and let us know what's going to happen next. We must be available for Yahweh on his Shabbatim and on his Moedim. So we see that Yahweh did mete out judgment on the world, on the whole earth, in the T-ball. Now, if you wanted to be saved, you had to be in the T-ball. The T-ball is the ark, and in the last days, these days, there's only one way of salvation, and that is Yahweh Shua. Yahweh Shua is the T-ball. He is the only way to salvation. Just like in the ancient world, the ark was the only way of salvation. There was no other option of being saved from the flood. You had to go into the ark to be saved from the flood. There is no option today to be saved into Yahweh's kingdom. You must accept his son Yahweh Shua to be saved in the kingdom. This is why Shaul tells Timothy that in the last days people are going to have a form of righteousness, and they denying the power of the righteousness. The power is Yahweh Shua. Do not follow any minister, any ministry that does not profess the name of Yahweh Shua. Yahweh gave his promise, and Yahweh always keeps his covenants. He always keeps his promises. He gave the promise of the rainbow. The rainbow is indicative of a domed earth. You cannot have a rainbow without a reflection of a dome. The rainbow is proof that we have this kind of a world and not that kind of a world. You cannot have a rainbow on a globe. You can only have a rainbow on a flat earth. You can make a rainbow in your own backyard. Turn the mist setting of your water hose on and let the mist go up in the air, and you can create a rainbow in your backyard. Man cannot create a rainbow inside of a building because it needs you need to have a reflection. Man can create a prism, but he cannot recreate a rainbow. A rainbow can only be recreated outside. That alone is proof of your flat, dome-covered earth. So grace is the new covenant. Grace, all of Yahweh's covenants add on. They do not subtract from. We know that after the flood, Ham takes the cloaks from his father who was half covered. That was the cloak of Adam, and he takes it, possesses it. He ends up giving it to Canaan. Canaan hands it on down to Nimrod, and it ends up going down to Esau. And we do not know where it is now. I believe the mother Hawaa's cloak is what Jacob used to cover Yusuf with. When he kept it, washed it, and cleaned it after his sons gave it back to him with the goat's blood on it. He washed it and cleaned it, put it back together, and hid it. I believe that is a cloak that Yahweh Shua wore. So based on right now, what my studying is that the cloak of many colors that Yusuf wore, his father Jacob put it back together, cleaned it, washed it off, and that is the cloak that Yahweh Shua wore. Isaiah 54, 1 through 10. Remember, we're talking about the last days. We're talking about Noakh, but how in Noakh is the covenant of Chaim, the covenant of grace. And this has always been planned. Let's read in Isaiah. This is before the New Testament. So let's read in Isaiah 54, 1 through 10, or what the Brit Hadashah. But let's go to the Torah in Isaiah 54, 1 through 10. Sing, O barren, you who have not borne. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not labored with child, because more are the children of desolate than the children of the married. Says Yahweh, enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not spare, lengthen your cord, and strengthen your stakes, because you will expand to the right and to the left, and your descendants will inherit the nations, and make the desolate cities inhabited. Do not fear, because you will not be ashamed, neither be disgraced, because you will not be put to shame, because you will forget the shame of your youth, and will not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore, because your maker is your husband, Yahweh Shabbaoth. Your Bible says Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh Shabbaoth. He is the host of all the creation. So, and is Yahweh Shabbaoth is his name, and your Redeemer is the Kodesh Achad, Kodesh one of Israel. He is called the Mighty One of the whole earth, because Yahweh has called you like a woman, forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a youthful wife when you were refused, says your Mighty One. For a mere moment I have forsaken you, but with great mercies I will gather you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have mercy. I will gather you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment. With everlasting kindness I'll have mercy on you, says Yahweh your Redeemer. Because this is the waters of Noakh to me. So here's a comparison I'm bringing here now of Noakh to today, how the covenant has always been planned to have mercy. So this goes on. Reading from Isaiah 54, it says that because this is like the waters of Noakh to me, because as I have sworn that the waters of Noakh would no longer cover the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be angry with you, nor rebuke you, because the mountains will depart and the hills be removed. But my kindness will not depart from you, nor will my covenant be shalom be removed, says Yahweh, who has mercy on you. That's beautiful. I'm glad that Yahweh keeps covenant, and he keeps covenant. So trust in him. We may look like fools now. We are set apart, and people do not understand us. They do not recognize us. They do not honor us. But he says, you will not be ashamed. There's going to be so many of us, so populous, that we're going to overtake the numbers of Yehuda. Yehuda is, the numbers of us of Ephraim is so great. We're going to have to enlarge our borders. We don't have enough land in Israel. Israel, we never inhabited all the land we're supposed to inhabit it. So the borders will have to be expanded even larger than what is over there right now. So we know that the people there now must not be the chosen ones, because the land certainly houses them. When Yahweh's people are there, the land will have to be expanded. Now, we go and find that Yahweh says that even and after the flood, he renewed his covenant with Noakh. He gave the rainbow. But even today, after regathering us together, his seed endures olam. His seed endures forever. And Yahweh shows his hand, just like in the days of Noah. The flood, the ark was built, and they went into the ark at the moment in time when the whole world would have been tainted. If Yahweh did not have Noah build the ark, Noah himself would have been eaten, and Enoch would eventually, he goes to Hashemayim. Methuselah eventually dies. Eventually, the whole world, there'll be no righteous on the earth. There have been none righteous on the earth. All of them, they've been eaten up. And it really was mercy shown that Yahweh destroyed the earth with the flood, because they would have destroyed themselves anyway. They would have eaten themselves up. This way, Yahweh left a remnant to renew the creation. And this is what's going to happen today. We are all being encroached upon. We're being encroached upon and squeezed on to accept the mark of the beast, or we're going to accept the image of Yahweh. Mankind is going to, all the nations are going to surround Israel to destroy her. And it's at that time that Yahweh is going to come and deliver us. He is our Redeemer. He has to come only at the moment in time when we recognize it as him who saved us. It cannot be us saving ourselves. It cannot be our strength, our might, our weaponry, our inventions. It has to be Yahweh. Just like at the Sea of Reeds, everyone on the earth knew that Yahweh saved Israel because the sea opened up. No man could do that. And it swallowed up the Egyptians. So this is proof that Yahweh was leading them. And that's what he's going to do today. He's going to reveal himself only when it's proven that he did it and no one else. So we move on and we find that the land has to be expanded. If you think about it, Israel stopped fighting their enemies around them, and they became just like their enemies around them, serving other gods of wood and stone. The original land grant went from the Euphrates to the Nile. I don't have a map, but went from Euphrates to the Nile. They never inhabited all that land. And actually, even then, if we continued in doing what we were supposed to do, all of the so-called continent of Africa, which includes Madagascar, and it includes the whole landmass. That's Africa is really much larger than we're being shown. All of that is Kodesh. All of that should have been taken over, and indeed, eventually, the whole world, if we had kept the laws of Yahweh, and that will be done in the millennial kingdom. Now, in the millennial kingdom, and only in the millennial kingdom, will the Torah be kept in its entirety properly. All 613 commandments will be kept properly in the personage of Dawid as the king, representing Yahweh Shua. So we're going to see that we have 1,000 years without intrusion from Shaitan of the Torah being kept perfectly, 613 commandments, but they all lead to Yahweh Shua. He is the end of the commandments. So once he returns for the whole earth to see, they then at that time will have to accept him or continue their self-righteousness. Right now, we must keep the commandments, all of them as we can. Some of them we cannot because we're in a foreign land. And we're speaking a foreign tongue. You cannot keep all the commandments, speak in a foreign land, in a foreign tongue, and when you are not a nation. Those three things keep us from keeping all of the Torah. But during that 1,000-year millennium, we will be able to do so, and we will. But at that time, after 1,000 years, will we then accept Hamashiach, or will we continue in our own way? And that is going to be the choice. That's going to be the choice. So obviously, we need to accept Yahweh's way. Here's two scriptures I'm going to talk about. In Hosea 6:2, Hosea talks about how that in 2 days that Yahweh will be in the grave, and on the third day he will rise. What is Hosea talking about? That in 2 days that this promise is in the grave, and on the third day it will rise. Let's compare Hosea 6:2 to Leviticus 7:18. In Leviticus 7, you're going to see the list of all the sacrifices, and there are actually 7 sacrifices. But Leviticus 7:18 directly addresses what Hosea is talking about in Hosea 6:2, and Hosea's name means salvation. Leviticus 7:18. If any of the flesh of the sacrifices of the shalom offering, the peace offering, is eaten at all on the third day, it will not be accepted, nor will it be imputed to him. It will be an abomination to him who offers it, and the person who eats of it will bear their guilt. So we see the 7th offering that we have of all the offerings, I'm not going to go through the other 6, is a free will peace offering. We free will, this is because we just love him and we just want to give to him because of our relationship with him. We're going to have 1,000 years of this, and we're going to freely worship Yahweh. For those who don't want to, they will not keep the sacrifices, but on their land will be no rain. So now we got sacrifices being given, and we're talking about on that final day, will they receive Yahweh Shua, or where they still accept their own righteousness, their own works of their own hands. So this shows how the commandments must be kept till the last day to lead us to Yahweh Shua. We hand the baton off of the Torah written in stone to hand it off to Yahweh Shua, writing it in our hearts. Yahweh is always meant to have his word in our hearts. It was given to us in writing because of our sin. So we see it, and it mirrors, let us see what we look like and what we need to clean up. The Torah was a mirror to show us where we were lacking. Once Yahweh Shua comes, he is the Torah. He is going to cleanse us, take back his blood from us. We receive his water of eternal salvation. We were not created with blood. We were created with the breath of Yahweh, and we never did drink the water of Yahweh Shua. We're going to be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, if we receive him. At that point, we have no memory of our sins, and we will live forever. Or we can say, no, we're doing well. We have not sinned in 1,000 years, keeping the law. That means we're going to accept the law instead of Yahweh Shua. Those people who do that will incur the final judgment. Psalm 16:10 says, you will not leave my body in Sheol. This backs up Hosea 6:2. 3 days in the earth, on the third day you come up, because after that, the body rots and stinks. Yahweh Shua did not go to perdition. Yahweh Shua rose after the third day, as he was sacrificed, fully bloodied. He took off the clothing, folded it up, went out to the garden, he gave himself as a wave offering and a heave offering, and the blood went back up to his Father, and he was clothed with the righteousness that we're going to be clothed with. That's why the disciples did not recognize him. So his body did not go into corruption, even though it went to the grave. But he showed the power of his hand by allowing Lazarus to go into corruption. I think he was risen on the 5th day. So this shows that Yahweh has power. He had power over the last enemy, death, the grave, and Hades. That he can reach into Hades and pull out souls. Because most of us will have been dead for more than 3 days before he comes. But Yahweh Shua has shown that he has power over death, Hades, and the grave by reaching into it and bringing out his souls. Ezekiel 37:26. But going back again to this temple, this final temple, the final temple actually is the bride being adorned coming down from Hashemaim. But this millennial kingdom, this temple is where Ruach HaKodesh will reside, because the temple that Moshe built and that Shlomo built, Ruach HaKodesh dwelt in there. But once Yisrael split away from Yehuda, the temple no longer had Ruach HaKodesh in it. That means Ezra's temple and Herod's temple did not have Ruach HaKodesh. But the final temple will, when we are reunited in the love of Yahweh Shua. Now, Ezekiel 37:26, moreover, I will make a covenant of shalom with them, and it will be an everlasting covenant with them. I will establish them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in their midst forever. Yahweh has always desired to live with us, not have us follow the commandments like we're in class and taking tests. It's supposed to be in our hearts, and it will be in our hearts when he dwells in us. In the meantime, we are to keep these commandments, which leads us to him. In Ezekiel 37, going back to verse 24, he says, they will walk in my judgments and observe my statutes to do them. So he's not doing away with the commandments. He is just saying that they are leading us to him for when he dwells with us. Yahweh's not dwelling with us now. Light cannot dwell with darkness. But in the personage of Dawid, he is going to oversee us keeping these 613 commandments for 1,000 years. That leads us to his son, Yahweh Shua, whom he built this house on. And at that point, those who receive him go to the right. Those who don't go to the left with Dolly and her sheep and all those mixed people. And those who receive him are caught up in honor with Yahweh Shua. Throughout the history of mankind, there are 7 covenants. The covenants do not replace anyone, they do not replace each other. They are additive. You have the covenant with Adam, the covenant with Noakh, the covenant with Abraham, the covenant with Israel, which is Yaakov, whose name was changed to Israel, the covenant with Dawid, and the covenant with his son Yahweh Shua. Is it too small of a thing for you just to lead the house of Israel, Yehuda? You will be the redeemer of the whole world. And then finally, the covenant of Shalom, that's in the 8th day of eternity. 7 covenants. I'm going to finish this off with the reading of Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 33. Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 33. Look, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mizraim, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, says Yahweh. But this is a covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. And I will be their mighty one, and they will be my people. So please do not listen to any ministers, any pastors, any preachers, any teachers who's telling you not to keep the commandments, not to keep the law. He says it clearly, you are to keep the law and to bring you to my son. When he comes, it'll be in your hearts. You're not going to be in class taking tests, keeping 613 commandments. It will be in your hearts and in your minds, and you're living and you're breathing, you're eating, you're drinking, you're walking and you're talking will be the love of Yahweh who lives in your midst. So until next week, Yehonatan Dawid with you here. Shalom Elohim. Peace be on you.